Hello everybody and welcome to Haus. I'm Rob, and today we are going to be going over some potentially major Gen 10 leaks. I am really intrigued by some of these. I've only gotten a quick look at them, but I felt like it was very much worth covering because it seems as though things are really going to start leaking here over the next couple of months as we get ready for them to announce it. I'm feeling more and more confident that we might get our official announcement, our official reveal here in August, as they normally do a second Pokemon Presents during this time period. It would be a little surprising that they wouldn't do it for, the 30th anniversary, but that's kind of where we're at. But before we dive in, I'm going to ask that you guys like and subscribe. If you are new to the channel, just subscribe so that then you can see all the great Pokemon content we have coming out on a nearly daily basis. And because it helps us out, and hopefully you enjoy this content. I'm going to continue to try to bring you guys all the different leaks, different rumors, and I am going to, continue by saying these are, from known leakers that have been wrong in the past. Some of them have been right as well in the past. You have to take a lot of this with a grain of salt. So remember that before we jump in here. But let's just do it. Light88 is a known leaker for Pokemon on Twitter. And it just starts with Gen 10 Gaia potential leaks, under your own risk. So just, these are spoiler alerts. So if you don't want anything spoiled, then you probably shouldn't even be looking at this. But hey, I appreciate the fact that you clicked on this video because you were intrigued initially. I will say it seems like it's pretty much guaranteed that Gaia is the code name or whatever you want to call it that they are using for Gen 10. We do know that the Terra Leaker has their hands on this. They have already threatened to put everything out there. They intentionally didn't put certain things out there. They only put the old stuff out there. And yet Pokemon, which is no surprise, and Nintendo are officially going after this person. So it'll be interesting to see if they find who they are. But I'm definitely intrigued by that. But we'll go into it here. The new gimmick of Gen 10, Prayer, it looks like, something like that, will allow for all Pokemon to benefit from buffs, and over 20 Pokemon are already confirmed to gain even bigger advantages, with some even changing forms. Initially, it's planned for 40 plus Pokemon to take full advantage of this feature. Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur will be 3 of them. Okay, so what does this mean? I've also seen it called Blessing. This rumor is going around pretty much everywhere right now. We have one more rumor that we'll go into here in a minute, but this is interesting because it almost sounds like it's going to be, I don't know, similar to what we've had in the past. I'm curious how this is going to be different than Mega Evolution or Gigantamaxing specifically. It sounds like this prayer blessing, which means that we're probably going to get something relating to the Greek gods, which if you saw one of my other videos, I can't remember exactly which one where I talked about this with Gen 10, you'll see I think a big picture of Zeus on it. This is what I want. I want the mythos of, ancient Greece, of, that sort of period with those, ancient mythical gods to be a major part of this game, since it sounds like we are heading to Greece. Just benefiting from a buff, what is that going to do? Is it going to buff a certain, number of stats? Is it going to be related to, a Pokemon's nature, where, maybe you'll get, an insane buff in attack, but then, your defense will be lower or something like that, right? The fact that it's not every Pokemon, that it's only going to be certain ones, is really interesting as well. Knowing that it's going to be Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur is not a surprise. The original 3 are pretty much always going to get that kind of love, right? You can almost guarantee that they're going to get that kind of love. It does confirm that they're going to be in the game as well, which is interesting. I've seen some rumors as well that there have not been really any new Pokemon that have been leaked yet. A lot of this is just based on current Pokemon that we do know about, so or that are already in the game, I should say. So, the fact that it's going to be 40 plus Pokemon that take advantage of this feature is going to be interesting. Again, it really does sound like Mega Evolution, right? What we've had in the past is that, you know, specifically with like Z moves and with Terra typings, right? That's every Pokemon. Every Pokemon had those abilities. It depended on the Z move that you got. It depended on, you know, the Terra typing that you got. So, you know, this one's interesting that it's only going to be for certain Pokemon. The fact that they've already got 20 confirmed, but they're not telling us really any of them other than the 3 big ones that pretty much everybody knows about, means that Light here probably doesn't know which 20 that there actually are. It's just that their source is probably telling them that there are 20 confirmed. It's planned for 40 more. I've seen even more than that potentially, so maybe they're just kind of working all the Pokemon into it. They just hadn't, based on the build that this person has yet. So very interesting part of this. They also were talking about, and this is from the Hidden Power podcast, which I highly suggest. They do a great job of getting everything put together. It's a really interesting listen for all of you. But this is kind of, you know, this one's from 4chan. So again, take this with a grain of salt. There are pretty much 4chan is, there's always going to be like 1 or 2 people who are right and 100 who are wrong. So keep that in mind. We've seen a lot of rumors coming out of 4chan lately. Here's what we got. They're calling it Aegis, which is very Greek. It's you know, that word is Greek. I can't remember what it means though. I apologize. I have not studied Greek in a long time. I did study Greek for a very short period of time in college. And then I realized that I was terrible at languages, so there was no need for me to learn Greek. So there you go. No gyms in the game. There are going to be 12 islands and 8 divine Pokemon that protect them. I guess as well, I'll let you guys know, I'm not going to react to each of these until after I read through them. So I'll read through them and then we'll go through each one. Fast travel plus a new selection of rides, air ride, additional ground ride, and additional water ride. I'm guessing Pokemon is what that means. Improved catching mechanic and shaders. Great. The new legendary Pokemon are 2 knights, which is interesting. Concept arts are already circulating. No new Pokemon have been shown. I guess this is the leak I was talking about. Do not waste your time on X or YouTube streams. Well, it's a good thing we're not a YouTube stream. Okay, let's talk about this. So no gyms in the game, 12 islands, and 8 divine Pokemon that protect them. This feels very similar to Alola. They are going to try to recapture kind of that sort of feel, right? With like, you know, the different Guardian Pokemon and all that kind of stuff. I think it was called Guardian. I can't remember right now. I apologize. Like the totems and stuff. So, yeah. Anyways, feels very similar to that, but it's going to be much bigger. 12 islands, obviously, is really big. And I love the fact that we're going to get 12 islands. That's a lot of space for us to kind of go around. I'm sure the islands are going to be pretty big. What would be crazy is if they were like as big as the different areas. You know, they're showing Pokemon Legends Arceus here. If there were 12 areas that were as big as, I believe it was it 5 or 6 areas in Legends Arceus, it'd be double the size of that game. That would be insane. I mean, that would be a huge game. And I think that would be awesome. I would love to run around in that. The whole 8 divine Pokemon thing, I felt like that was made for Arceus, right? Like that's kind of what this feels like as well. It almost feels like a combo of Alola and Arceus, and I don't hate it like much, but like for mainline games, I kind of want gyms. Like I was really happy with Sun and Moon when they changed things up. I thought it was going to be different. You know, there were so many rumors swirling that you're going to create your own gym and you're going to help set up the gym system, and you do to a certain degree, right? Like without a doubt, but the trials and everything, it feels like they're kind of just repeating that. And I know gyms are repetitive as well. There's no doubt about that. But I was really hoping that maybe they would just change the gym system, right, a little bit, but they would still keep those gym leaders, because I think that that's such an iconic part of mainline Pokemon games. If this rumor turns out to be true, I'm not going to be like devastated, but it is not going to necessarily be something that I personally love. And it will definitely detract a little bit from me. When these games come out, we will have a review here at Pokehouse of it. Connor and I may even do separate reviews. We'll have to see. But I will tell you that if this is a part of it, it will definitely be a notch down for me. Unless if they handle it really well and it feels really good, it feels unique, then I may give it a little bit more of a break. But we'll move on here. Fast travel. new selection of rides, air ride, additional ground ride, and additional water rides. I don't really understand what that means exactly. Like, we've not really had necessarily Pokemon that can do that as much in the main games necessarily. So it's like, you know, I mean, we have, right, at different points, but it's like, of course they were going to be new. I don't understand why they wouldn't be. So I guess the one thing that this is confirming is that we're not going to necessarily have to, you know, walk everywhere. We're not going to have to, you know, surf necessarily to each island. We will be able to fly to them. We will be able to fast travel. So that is a good portion of the game. Like, that's important in my mind. So the other thing that this kind of makes me think about is that, again, this must be a really, really big game. I think that's going to be important. Obviously, we had Koraidon or Miraidon, right, and Scarlet and Violet, and they kind of, you know, handled all of these things at once. It sounds like we may be getting different ride Pokemon in this game, not necessarily just the same legendary or anything like that. So that'll be interesting as well to see how they handle that, because that'll be, I think, you know, with the way we saw it in Legends Arceus, I think it's going to be really interesting. Improved catching mechanic and shaders. What is this improved catching mechanic, right? We've already got, you know, the Legends games with their own one. The main games have still kind of kept their own style of catching mechanic. How is this going to change? Are they going to continue to make it a little bit more like Pokemon Go? Or is it going to be, you know, again, similar to Legends Arceus? Is it going to be a combo somehow of that with what we've gotten in the main games? I don't really know, but I am intrigued by that. The improved shaders is great. I think people are going to love that. This is apparently only coming out for the Nintendo Switch 2, so it should be the best looking graphical game that Pokemon has ever had. I really fully 100% believe that. You know, the hardware on the Nintendo Switch 2 is pretty strong. It's not amazing necessarily, but it isn't bad either. So I'm really hopeful that, you know, this is going to be good news in that regard, that it's going to look good and that people will stop, you know, complaining about how bad the graphics are. I know I'm one of those people. There are times where I'm like, I would like a little more detail more than anything. I don't mind the overall graphics. I just would like more attention to detail. You know, I would like for the windows to look a little bit different in Legends ZA. I would like for the features on the ground, right, the grass and everything. Like, I've been playing, you know, Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remaster, and the ground, everything around it just feels so alive. It feels so natural. Even looking at this picture here of Legends Arceus, my biggest complaint was that it just, like, everything on the ground kind of looked like it was, you know, from the GameCube era or the Wii era. The rest of the game felt amazing, but it just was, it was not an artistic style. It was just the attention to detail. It was the ability to make it so that, you know, the rocks didn't look like they were just kind of slabbed together, you know, that it was just a polygon with really fake, terrible looking texture thrown on it. So I'm hopeful with these shaders and different stuff like that, we will get those better graphics. This has been the one, and I think a lot of the reason why people are saying that this is, you know, definitely fake, that there are 2 legendary night Pokemon. Here's what I'm going to say to that. This is probably fake, so I'll just put that out there and I'll explain why at the end. But I don't think it's because of the night Pokemon. This could just be a translation error. You have to remember, right, that the Greeks, you know, had, you know, like the Spartans, and you had, you know, the oh my gosh, what are they called? Oh, it starts with a P. I can't remember what they're called, but they're spearmen, the phalanx, right? And all of that, right? So, like, they would kind of look like knights, right? They would look like, I guess, kind of the way, funny enough, that phalanx is being described for its mega evolution in Legends ZA, where, you know, it's going to be a person with a shield and a spear, right? And they could have swords as well. You had the Myrmidons back then. I can't believe I can remember that, but I couldn't remember, you know, what the spear infantry were called. But anyways, my point is that, like, Myrmidons and stuff, like, they were around back then. That's the whole Homer and the Iliad kind of thing. I really hope they dive into that. And having them be 2 night Pokemon, I think, is maybe more of just a person not understanding that, like, it's very possible that they could look like knights, but they're not going to be like full clad armored knights. Most likely they're probably going to just look like, you know, Pokemon with swords and shields, which, you know, obviously is the name of a game already. So or even a spear and a shield, right, or something like that. So I'm not against that. I think that that would make a lot of sense. I think it'd be really cool. I'd be more surprised if we didn't get something like that in this game, like some new Pokemon that looks like that. But I would be really surprised if they were actual knights, like in, you know, again, ironclad armor with the whole helmets, the ploufs on the top of their head, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's going to be what this means. I think this is potentially a translation error, just somebody who doesn't know how to describe, you know, older settings for soldiers, because, I mean, knights weren't the first ones to have shields and swords, guys. I hate to break it to you. The Romans even had them before then, and they could be considered to look like knights. I wouldn't even hate it if there was a little bit of Rome thrown in here, even though I know it's the Greeks, but the Greeks, you know, end up settling in Rome. Sorry. Historian here, a lot of this could be really fun. Concept arts are already circulating, but there's no new Pokemon shown. This is surprising, I will say. I think the concept arts would have new Pokemon on them pretty soon, and if they're circulating already, why have they not been revealed yet? You know, this is interesting. I really don't know. Like, it feels like this rumor is really just starting to come about, but it looks like this came out on, you know, the 13th of January, so I don't know why it's only just now circulating, but I don't really think that this is the case, or maybe I'm just reading the date wrong. I don't think I am, but I would have to think that they're gonna, you know, show new Pokemon before or with Gen 10. We're at least gonna get the box legendaries and the starters. I think that's almost a guaranteed. That's pretty much what we always get. So I find this to be interesting that they'd have concept arts circulating for new Pokemon, but maybe they're really just, or for no new Pokemon, but maybe they're just really changing a lot in this game, and they wanted to only have you know, older Pokemon, you know, in the concept, so that they could kind of go about that and figure out the rest of the game. So maybe I'm wrong, but we'll have to see. Last thing is, don't waste your time on X or, you know, YouTube streams, whatever. That is what that is. So yeah, I mean, I really think that this is fake. I think it makes sense in the terms of, like, I do think we'll get a lot of islands. I could see them going back with this divine totem Pokemon stuff. But there's really nothing else here of substance, to be honest with you. This is not somebody who's pointing to very specific things, right? Like, very generalized, like, we're going to get new ground Pokemon that you can ride around on, and air and water. Okay, great. Like, that was probably going to happen, like, especially if we already know this is going to Greece. What are these improved catching mechanics? Like, sometimes people go into too much detail, and then it feels like it's a fanfic, right? Where it's just like, oh, these are the dreams we would love to have, but, like, Pokemon's probably not going to do that. This one is the exact opposite, where it's just so freaking broad that there's a chance they'll get some of it right, but they're probably, you know, like, they will get the fast travel and the ride Pokemon probably right. I would be more than surprised if that was not the case. They're going to get the shaders right. Yes, this game is going to look better, right? There's probably concept art that is out there right now. Like, this is a good time to kind of guess that. So again, I'm not really convinced that this is a real leak by any stretch, especially if the date up here really is from January 13th and it's just now starting, you know, to kind of circulate around. People are, I mean, maybe it's because people are like, oh, this is actually pretty close. But that would, again, be just, I think this would just be somebody guessing. So maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this one. So from our house to yours, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.